right now. He is hope and joy and love and peace and light. Sing aloud like a broken door, going on inside. Generation with resurrection light. We are a generation with the power of Christ. And my song will be. Out of the darkness, we will rise and say, Amazing grace. Proclaim that this morning. Amen. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the water with holy thunder? He leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Come on. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. He brings our chaos back into order. He makes the orphan a son and daughter. The King of glory, the King of glory. He rules the nations with truth and justice. Shines like the sun out for all his brilliance. The King of glory, the you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You would lay down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. All that you've done for me.
Good morning. Our word from the Bible this morning from Isaiah chapter 40 verses 25 and 26. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing.
Touch of home, but never change. His love is everlasting hope, a promise that I know. So when you lose your way, Even when the hate of this world wore down his soul, he made him to a tree. Poured out his blood for the sins of you and me. So no, he will not let go. No matter what you've done, yeah, he still loves you so. He will intercede. Soon every knee will bow and confess that Christ is Lord. Jesus, Jesus. Lord, I believe you died for me. You died for me. Set me free. Oh, I believe. there is. Freedom reigns in this place. The showers of mercy and grace raining on every face. There is freedom. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Good morning. No. All right. Well, before we get started, I want to take a few minutes and do a few things. I need Jameson, Drew, Seth, and Arden to come up here. So here's 4 of our youth. Here is our youth, pretty much. Outside of the ones that have makeup on, do you see anything specific about the faces of these 4 youth? Sunburn. The reason why they're sunburned, and I'm not going to say they all volunteered and was excited about it at the beginning, But from 8 a.m. in the mornings yesterday till 10:30 last night, these four were working to make sure that Yahweh Music Jam was a success. They were loading boxes, they were unfolding tents, they were stacking chairs, they were running errands, they were helping make gumbo. They were whatever they were asked to do. Now I want to say they're just like we are. They weren't perfect. There was times we couldn't find them because they found a little niche to go flirt, chit chat, talk, whatever. But for the majority of the time, they were where we needed them to be. And so, all seriousness, I think that it's very fitting that the church recognizes these guys for the work they did. Don't you think? Let's lift them up. All right. Thank you, guys. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So, no. So, if that's all it took. So now, if I can have Howard, Steve, Chris, April, and Crystal come up. Now, I'm not going to embarrass them and say, look at their faces, what do you see? Because it's going to be quite obvious with these guys, too. With these guys, too. So, I want to make sure everybody understands or knows, because I know we got some new people since all this happened. This is your core team of the church. These are the guys and ladies that put in the hours, the time, not only physical time, but spiritual time, praying for the church, praying for movement, things that we need to do. So I wanted to take a time to kind of explain to you a little bit what they do. Chris here, he's kind of our, he has the crappy job. He really does. And the good thing about it is he's like, no, I don't. I love my job, which is even better. Chris is the associate pastor here, so he does what nobody else wants to do. But it's the things he loves to do. He takes care of for when you're sick and you go online and you listen to what we do and you can pay attention to what's going on, that's because of him. When you see the stuff on the screen, the words and the nice flow and things like that, that's because of him. When you hear the chords from the piano, which he came in here playing an acoustic guitar, that's because he's doing it. When I need a break, or when you guys, I can tell you're tired of listening to me, and he steps in because, give you guys a break from me, that's what Chris does. So he's been a great asset, and I know personally. Oh, yeah, even when Steve needs a break, he fits in. I mean, that's what I mean. He's got the crappy job. I'm sure if Howard didn't show up, he'd do that too one day. So I just wanted you guys to know this is who he is, and this is what he does, and just always be lifting him up, and we appreciate him. Steve, obviously, you kind of figure out what he does, but he's the music man. He's the worship leader. And when Steve, as far as core leaders are concerned, outside of Crystal, him and April, have been with us the longest. Steve and I kind of met over a mutual friend, and we had a phone conversation, which started the whole thing. It was just a conversation about what we do and what my vision is for the church. And at the time, we weren't even meeting as a church yet when we first started talking. And I kind of shared with him, what the vision was, what I wanted to do. And Steve came and visited me one time. I was preaching right after our motorcycle event, and Steve shows up, and of course it was all motorcycle guys that were there. It was right after an event, so everybody from out of town was there too. And here comes Steve with his acoustic guitar, and he walks in, and I don't know what happened where Crystal and I were, but anyway, we ended up being a few minutes late. He got there before me, and they were scared. They were like, what's going on here? And so anyway, long story short, Steve started looking for alternatives, looking for a better offer, to be honest. And but he kept working with us. He kept coming to meetings, kept talking to us, saying, I'm still praying to God, trying to find out what he wants us to do. And then, of course, we told him right off the bat that he's wasting his time, that he's just ignoring God. But he had to figure that out for himself.
In a nice way.
He did, yeah. But kind of the funny joke about Steve and I is the first time, Steve came from a church where it was more structured, more organized probably. He had a meeting with the pastor, and he talks about what he's doing, tells Steve what he needs to be doing, and that's what he did. So with me, it's different. I'm like, look, we all have different jobs, and God gave us these different talents and these different jobs, and you're under the authority of God. And so as the worship leader, his responsibility is to listen to God and play what God tells him is the music that needs to happen for that day, and not me. It's not my responsibility. But believe it or not, I don't know why any pastors would want that, because you do not know how good it feels when someone says something about the music. I'll say, he's the worship leader. Good or bad, you go to him. You don't come to me. You kind of complained about this last part, that's me. But the first part, that's him. And I don't hear that. I don't hear people saying, I don't really like this, I don't like that. But it's made it nice for me to be able to point that to him. So the first sermon that we did together, Steve comes up to me and he says, I need to know what the sermon is. And I was like, what? And he's like, I need to know what the sermon is so I can prepare for it. And that was before we had our conversation. And so I looked at him dead in the eye and I go, what the hell? Go to hell. Sorry, go to hell. I said, go to hell. And he was like, what? And I was like, that's the sermon. Go to hell. And it was. And so from then on, Steve has never asked me what the sermon is going to be about anymore. But Steve handles all of our music, the music lineup and everything for the music jam. All that came from Steve's hard work. So, and I'm telling you, there's more and more and more that's going to be coming out because of that. I'm not done yet. Yeah, she told him what sucked and what didn't. I think is what I heard come out of that. Yeah. He did good. So then Howard joined us. Howard had been with part of me for a while at a different church, kind of visiting. He would visit every other week. And it was like we had shared custody of Howard. So he'd come to my church, our church, one weekend. He'd go to another church the other weekend. So we had shared custody for a while. And then we came over here, and Howard has a special gift, believe it or not, and it's not just talking. But that is part of it, and that's part of it that makes it good. Howard is very good at making sure you feel loved, make sure you feel welcome, make sure you're prayed for, following up with you, and things of that nature. So when we were praying about how to set up a core team, you got your traditional roles, your business roles, for lack of better words, but no core team that I looked at or anything actually had what Howard does. And what Howard does for us here is, he's one that I can count on, that if I need help going to the hospital, I'll call Howard, and he'll go to the hospital with me. He'll go to the hospital if I can't go. Howard comes in here and makes sure the church is open, make sure it's ready, make sure the coffee's set. He makes sure that anything we need is taken care of, and anything you need is taken care of. He prays for people. He helps follow up on people. If you don't come, he's going to call you and make sure you're fine. So Howard's been a great asset to us.
That's what's up, brother, right here.
Obviously, Crystal's been with me from the beginning. Bless her heart, exactly. What Crystal does for us is she is the secretary/treasurer, so she takes care of all the money and all the bulletins and things of that nature that you need. If we need stuff, she gets with the core team. We talk about it, we vote on it, and we take care of it. She manages the software. She does our taxes. She pays our bills. All the stuff that none of us up here want to do, she's stuck with doing it, making sure, we make good choices financially as far as, what we're purchasing, what we don't purchase, things of that nature. And she's real funny, too. When I told her that we were going to do this, the first thing she said is, I am not a preacher's wife. And I said, well, you weren't a biker's wife either, and look at you now. So you never know where God's going to put you. Lisa, or April. I'm going to have to find a job for Lisa because I just keep, I keep doing that. April came really, she came with Steve, but she didn't really come into this. She always had a heart for the kids, and she was always helping out with the children and stuff, was always doing things with them and would fill in and kind of absorb that role. And so we were like, look, this is what you're doing. You really need to take this over in management. But our rule was very simple. We don't want to entertain your children. That's not the goal. We don't want them just to have something to do so we don't have to be bothered with them for an hour or whatever. We wanted something more. And April's like, that's what I want. I don't want to just play games with them. I don't want to do arts and craft. I don't want to get all this stuff. I want to teach them about the Bible. And she liked it because she says it's simple the way she understands it. So it made it easy for her to teach them. I'm just kidding. But she does.
Wait there. I wasn't going to call you a liar right here.
I said I was just joking. No.
But you're right, though. I ain't going to lie. You're right.
Okay. But no. But the point is what she's done is she's made teaching the Bible enjoyable. And if you talk to your kids, which we encourage you to do afterwards, ask them what they were taught, what was going on, and I guarantee you that they'll be able to tell you what they were taught. It wasn't, oh, we had donuts and water. It wasn't, here's my arts and crafty thing. It's, this is what God says, and this is what God means, and this is what you need to know about God. And so it's really interesting. And I've talked to some of the kids afterwards, and they get into some serious stuff. I mean, it's not, the questions that I know some adults probably couldn't answer that she's given to them. So this is your core team. These guys worked endlessly on the music jam that happened this weekend. If you were there ain't no way you didn't get blessed at some point during the day. Amen. No way in this world. One of the things that Chris loves to do is he loves to count. I don't know why, but he loves to count. And he went and got him a high dollar $4 counter. And he was counting everybody that came and visited us throughout the day. And the final number was 682 people.
They only got 50 bottles of water.
Yeah, apparently. So 682 people were able to be blessed at some point during the time we were there. Becky already left, but she gave us the stories of people that would actually came to the prayer tent and talked to her and shared stuff with her and was able to do that. Each person here has a story of somebody that we talked to while we were there that said that they were touched. Steve was sharing, one of the band members was there, and if you want to share that, I'll share it because you're not on mic. But was sharing that one of the band members said that it was his wife that was estranged from his father, her father happened to live in the neighborhood or in the area, and because of the concert came and met her for the first time. And they got reunited at the concert. So that's nothing I did. That's nothing these great people did. That was all 100% a God thing right there. A God thing right there. So what we wanted to do, one of the things that we did, which we thought was pretty cool, was each of the bands, and sometimes their actual band members, actually signed one of our flyers that we had out there. So I don't know if you saw that. And we were really honored that they took the time to do it. The funny thing is they were honored. They thought they were that they were doing something special. And the people were taking pictures of them doing it and signing it, and so they really thought honored about it. And I thought about, okay, this is going to look really cool in the church. It's going to make us look great and all that good stuff. But then, actually, Crystal and I had talked about it even before last night, but it got confirmed last night. This was something that God had laid on my heart before, but really, really burdened Steve about this. This is up his alley of something he wants to do. So, Steve, the church wants to present this to you. Yeah, it is a saxophone. So give your core team a big hand. Now that you know what they do, you know who to go to when you got questions. I'm the master follower. All right. Now we got all the mushy stuff out of the way.
If I can share one thing.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I don't know how many people saw this, but I know Charles did, Crystal saw it, I saw it.
I got pictures, I'll post later.
And she took pictures of it.
Hold on.
This young lady, she come up, she walked all the way from down at the bottom, and she come up to the top, and she was sitting there, and she was on her knees, just praising the Lord during the song, and she was crying out to God. I could hear her crying out to God. Crystal saw her, but she was waiting for her to get through praying. That's what I said. Well, I couldn't go over there and pray for her because I don't, I'll go over there and pray for you, but that's where the females come in with the females. We don't cross those barriers. For her to do that, and then she after the just well, I ain't gonna say after it was over with, but before it was over with, she come up to me and she says, "I met your wife today," and my wife Valerie happened to be out there that day or yesterday, and they were coming out of the bathroom and they saw her and they were taking pictures of her and taking video of her, and they prayed for her. They took her around into the area of the bathroom where the ladies go into the bathroom and prayed for her. And she come up and she actually physically sought me out to say, I want to tell you to tell her thank you for me because you don't know what she did. And I was sitting there and I was so proud of my wife. I mean, I love her. I'm still proud of her, But for her to stop doing what she did, and just like everybody else here yesterday when they were talking to people and praying for Becky when she was praying for the people, they actually just physically stopped doing what they were doing. And put God first before everything else happened. Because whatever we were doing at the time, it's still gonna be there, but we might lose that person. So I just wanted to throw that shout out for everybody that did that prayed for people yesterday, that talked to them and spoke to them, laid their hands on them, whatever. I can't say it enough because that's what this whole thing was about. It was about God. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about this church. It was about God. It wasn't about the music. The music was a big part of it. The church was a big part of it, but it's all about God. But that's all.
Thank you.
Oh, we got 2 blisters now.
Yeah, we got a lot of blisters, but that's all right. So who recalls what we talked about last week? Anybody? Does anybody remember what the first is? Okay. What was the F in first? Finances. What was I? Interest. Great. What is R? Relationships. S? Schedule. And T? Trouble. Everybody should have got T as trouble. Any do you guys remember what the very last verse was that we talked about? It was in John 13. Now that if you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them. Did anybody try that for the week? Anybody try to see if that was true? Anybody try first? Say, okay, for this week, I'm going to put God first in my finances. No? This week, I'm going to put God first in my interest. This week, I'm going to put God first in my relationship. This week, I'm putting God first in my schedule. This week, I'm putting God first in my troubles. Anybody? Good. Yep. 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 Excellent. Great. Now, here's the problem with all of us. We have these great ideas of we're going to put these things in place. We're going to make this schedule. We're going to have these things lined up. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then what happens? Life. Life happens. But what if I told you sometimes something other than life happens? What if I tell you that sometimes God happens? You're just walking down the street minding your own business, and all of a sudden God says, "Who? I need to see if you're for real. I need to know if what you're doing is for real, so I'm going to give you this little thing to see if you can manage it before I give you a big thing." And you know how many people fail the little things? The bad part is we don't just fail the little things, we continuously fail the little things. And some of you have heard me talk about this before, but I kind of look at our Christian walk the same as I would look at going to school. Okay? How many people remember going to school? I just want to make sure it wasn't that long for some of you. All right. Now, how many years do you have to go to just to finish high school? Not Louisiana here, in normal people. I mean, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding, Sam. Just kidding, buddy. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I thought you said 4, and I was like, no, not in Louisiana. But anyway, how many years does it normally take? The minimum requirement does it take to get out? 12 years. And we divide those up. So we'll say, what grade are you in? And you will say 8th, 9th. We skip 12th grade. We're seniors. You know, when you get into high school, you skip grades. You go into sophomores, juniors, freshmen, seniors. You know, that sounds more important than 10th, 11th, 12th. But we have it in grades. Now, during the grade that you're in that particular grade right now. What do you have to do during that time period? You have to what? But how do you do that? You have to learn things. You have to be studying things. You have to be tested on things. And when you do that, after the allotted time, what happens? You pass, and then you're out of school? You go to the next grade. You go to the next level. What if I told you that I believe that's how our Christian walk is? See, you remember in kindergarten? All you really had to do to pass kindergarten was show up and not bite anybody. Right? You know, it's gotten a little bit harder where now you got to learn how to write your name or at least acknowledge your name. You got to learn your colors. You got to be able to count to something. But really, you just pretty much have to show up and don't bite anybody, at least more than once. Right? And then you get into the hard stuff. So when you're born again and you become a new Christian, God requires you just pretty much just to show up, participate, start to kind of figure this thing out. Decide that that's really what you want to do. And then you get into first grade and they start giving you harder things to learn. And then as you continue to grow, you start learning calculus and you start learning the hard stuff and what a noun is and an adverb and all that stuff. And you get into all those things about geography and where's this at and where's all that and what's your capital. It just keeps building and building and building and building. Does it not? The tests become easier or harder? But you can't go to the next grade until you do what? Pass that test. What if I told you I believe that's the way our Christian walk is? If you're wondering why you're still doing the same stuff you have always done, it's because you haven't passed the test yet. God can't move you to the next level in your Christian walk because you keep failing the same test over and over and over again. Why do you keep failing a test? And what is the majority of the reason people don't learn? They don't study. They don't pay attention. They don't care. Think about it. They don't care. So if I would tell you, okay, I'm struggling with this, and I just keep failing the test, and God won't bless me because I keep failing this test, what do you think you should do to study? Read the Bible?
Go to church.
Why would I go to church?
To listen to the Bible.
Go to church and listen? That's a good idea. Just like going to school, and if you don't listen, you're like, oh, I think I had a... They talked about it. I don't know. Talk to your teacher. Go straight to the teacher. I need help. That's the biggest struggle we have with our kids right now. I don't understand what they're talking about. Did you talk to the teacher? Who's that? Is the look they give us. That's that person standing up in front of you that gives you those assignments. We call that the teacher. You go ask them. I don't understand. I need help. So you got a test coming up in life. You got struggles coming up in life. What should you do? Hey, God, I got this test that you keep giving me. I got this struggle that keeps coming up, and I keep failing the test. I know I'm ignorant. I know I'm an idiot. But I know that you can help me. Just like if I go to the teacher. And then all of a sudden, your teacher's doing it, and you get on your piece of paper, and all of a sudden you go, oh, duh. Has anybody had that moment with God? Oh, duh. So, I believe that with our Christian walk, things keep graduating. And then, just like Billy Graham just did, you finally graduate. You finally get to graduate. And what's the goal of graduation? To be done. Not have to do it anymore. He ain't got to do it no more. He's done. He's graduated. Now, in our life, it's all messed up. We get all excited. I want to graduate high school. I can't wait. Why? So I can go to college and do it all over again for 4 more years. And then when I'm done, I'll figure out what I want to do with my life. So that's a little bit of the difference. But even in all of our planning and everything we do, and we're getting everything lined up, Jonathan, you're getting ready to graduate. You're getting it all lined up really nice and pretty, right? You got the school you're going to. You got the money you're going to need. You got the acceptance letter. You probably went out and bought a T-shirt already saying, I'm going to this school. I'm so excited. But you got it. That's we're all prepared. But what if I tell you sometimes when we prepare to do things, God puts something in our place, in our way? Something happens that changes. How many are today doing exactly what you thought you were going to do, what you had planned on doing the day you graduated high school? How come nobody's raising their hands? Plans change. How about in your spiritual walk? Think about the day you got saved and you were going to be a Billy Graham. Woo, I'm going to save the world. Think about that journey. Think about where you're at yesterday and how you thought you were going to feel today. Most of us feel like we're probably about 50 years older than we were yesterday morning. I did the Stairmaster yesterday. I don't know if you've been there. For those that were there, you know how many stairs are up and down. I don't know how many times I went up and down those things, but I guarantee you, I'm surprised. I think my phone quit counting because it's got that health thing in it that my wife stuck in there. I don't know what she's trying to say. But It quit telling me you did good today. It probably thought it was all a lie. So it just quit counting. But I don't know how many times we went up and down those steps. I mean, it was to the point where I'm like walking like this by the time that my daughter's like, walking like that's bad for you. I said, I'm walking like this because it was bad for me to begin with. I wouldn't walk like this. I'd walk where normal if this didn't hurt and that didn't hurt. I mean, everything hurt. It was painful. But today, here we are somewhere else. And you know what? After the Spirit, all excitement yesterday and all excitement today, then it's like, okay, where are we going to be tomorrow? What are we going to do tomorrow? What kind of things are going to happen? What kind of test is going to happen to us? There was many, many, many tests leading up to this music jam. Matter of fact, I talked to Crystal about it, and I was like, I don't understand this. From Wednesday pretty much on was just one struggle after the other. I was like, I think I even talked to Howard. I was like, I had to call my wife and tell her, I'm about ready to turn in my pastoral ID card, and I don't have one, but I was going to turn that in because I'm about ready to go postal on somebody. And I don't do that very often. I was so mad. And then something else happened, and something else happened, and I was like, I felt like there was about this much of spirituality left in my gas tank. I'm not kidding. Moving into the music jam, I had about that much. It had become that morning, Saturday morning, Friday night and Saturday morning, was about getting the job done. That was my motivation. It wasn't that I was so spirit-fed, and I know you guys are like, oh, Pastor, you can't say that. People are going to hear you. But it's the reality. I was not moving under the Spirit on Friday. I was moving under check, box, done. That's where my spirit was. That's where my heart was. That's where I was. Saturday morning, it was like, we just got to get up and get there. We got to get this done. But the minute I pulled into the parking lot and Seth was riding right next to me, and I took my foot off of that bike and I put it on the ground, I immediately knew I was stepping on hollow ground. Everything changed. It was no longer check marks. Everything that was beating me up until that point, I didn't even remember. Didn't even care. All I cared about that point was glorifying God. And the people around me were the same way. There was no stress. There was no snapping each other. There was no biting each other. It was completely unlike anything I'd ever been to at the magnitude of what we were doing. A lot of people helped, but you understand that the 6 people that were standing up here, they were the ones responsible for what happened. Responsible for it. So things come in our way that give us the ability to see God work. And there's some things that get in our way that we see the flesh work instead. So let's look at this story that kind of helps us a little bit. And you've heard it before, and I hope that we're going to take a little different twist on it from what you're used to. But if you look in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 37. And this is a parable that you probably heard as a kid of the Good Samaritan. Anybody hear of the Good Samaritan law? Yeah. We need to take God out of America, but we have a law named after something that happened in the Bible. Just saying. Just saying. So let's look at this story. It says, on one occasion, the experts of the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law, he replied. How do you read it? He answered, meaning the expert of the law. Or love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. If you notice on Facebook, that's like one of the famous things that people like to show is videos of somebody falling, videos of kids jumping other kids, and there's obviously someone's videotaping it, so they're watching this happen. They watch people walk by as these things are happening and don't even try to help and stop. It's become so prevalent in our social media that people probably don't even pay attention to it anymore. And here it is, the same thing. Same thing just happened. So, of course, the Bible's outdated, but we're reading the same story. I could be reading this off of Facebook, and you guys would say, oh, yeah, I just saw that too. It says a priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and he went and saw him and took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return I will reimburse you for the extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. See, you got to remember in this story here, the road to Jericho was the most dangerous road there was to travel on. You were almost guaranteed that if you traveled this road, there was a high probability that you were going to get mugged. That you were going to get your stuff stolen, you were going to get beaten up, you were going to get left. You got to also understand that during this time, not so different than today, we had different racial issues that went on. The Samaritans weren't considered your high people. Who were your high people? The priest. The Levites were who? We studied that before. Who are the Levites? They're from the family of the priest. So we have the priest walk by. And what did he do? The representative by law of the Lord. And what did they do? Passed by. Not only passed by him, what did he do? He crossed to get it completely on the other side. But the Samaritan, the lowest, saw him. And what did he do? He took pity. He stopped. He could have just stopped and said, hey, dude, you got a cell phone? You all right? Cool. I'm out of here. But he says he stopped. You see, when God gives us a divine detour, sometimes it clashes with what? My agenda. Because what was he doing? You think his agenda was to stop and help somebody? No. His agenda was to get through that road to Jericho without being mugged, without being robbed, without being beaten up. He was obviously traveling down that road because he had somewhere to be. Or he wouldn't have went down it, right? You guys have gone accidentally, maybe on purpose. Hey, I got to get somewhere. This is the quickest way to go. I know it's a bad neighborhood, but if I just I really got to get there. I got to get through it. I got to go. This is the only way to get there. I got to go. So we know this guy had somewhere else to be. He had something he needed to do, but he traveled there anyway. He said the man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. The most dangerous road he was traveling down. And then the guy stopped. Usually when God intervenes, it's going to clash with what you wanted to do. Being up here today clashes with what I wanted to do in my life. Believe it or not. Steve, what Steve does right now clashes probably, I know he's shared with me, with what he wanted to do. But if you saw him yesterday on his second performance, you would be like, oh yeah, God definitely detoured him. I mean, I try very hard not to be a boastful kind of person. All I kept saying was, that's my worship leader. My worship leader. Oh, he said, get me a guitar player and you'll see that some more. I was like, oh, we're going to find one. Chris said, hey, we didn't have a drummer. Now we got a drummer. Be careful. Be careful. But it clashes. When God intervenes and He's got something for you, it's going to clash with whatever you originally thought you were going to do. And then you find yourself in God's glory. You find yourself being taken care of. Look over in Mark chapter 1. We're going to talk about another group that God changed their agenda. Mark chapter 1, verse 16 through 20. It says, as Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting their nets into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Then he came a little further, and he saw Zebedee and his brother John in a boat preparing their nets. Without delay he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat and the hired men and followed him. That was not on their agenda for the day. It was not their agenda to become fishers of men. What was on their agenda that day? Fish for fish. To make money. To provide financially for themselves, for their families. That was their agenda that day. And Jesus walks up and says, hey, cancel all your plans. I got a bigger thing for you. And they were like, well, let me get back to you. I got to check my calendar. Let me check with my wife, my kids. Hey, you know what? I kind of make some money doing this. What's the retirement like? Do you have insurance? How much would I make an hour? Jesus like, nah, none of that. Your retirement's really good. You'll eat. But there's no pay for the hour. They didn't ask any of those questions, did they? He said, come, and they said, I'm there. Not even asked where they were going. They just left. They just got up and left. But that wasn't their agenda for the day. And I guarantee you, people looked at them just like people looked at some of us and look at some of you now and say, are you crazy? What is wrong with you? You had an opportunity to do this, this, and this, and you quit that to do this? They're like, you don't understand what I get from this that I can never get from that. I get joy, I get peace, I get happiness, and I know that I'm pleasing the Father, which in turn is going to guarantee me crowns that I can place at His feet when I get to heaven. You don't understand. I no longer want a participation trophy. I no longer want to just have a jersey and sit in the dugout like a lot of Christians wants to do. I want to be on the starting team. I want to be the guys that are out there when the count is down. I want to be the one that God sends out there when the score is tied and there's 3 seconds left and we're on the 1 yard line. I want to be the one that God puts out there. I don't want to be the ones on the sideline watching. And when it's all over and we won, I get to celebrate we won in my beautiful white uniform that never got dirt on it, never got a grass stain, but I can walk around town saying, look at me, my team won. God says, I don't want spectators. I don't want a whole bunch of Christians that sit on the sidelines or sit in the dugouts. I want them out there on the field playing. But it requires you to change your plans and be ready and listening to what he had to do. And that's what the disciples had to do. They had to be prepared to do what God told them to do. If you look over in 1 John 3:16, some of you are probably going, oh, I know that verse. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get somebody's going to start quoting it to me too. He says in 1 John 3:16, he says, this is how we know what love is. This is how we know what love is. You ever try to explain love to somebody? Oh, love's that nice little gooey feeling you have in your heart for somebody. No, that's called lust. Right? Because you can't tell me you ain't had that little gooey feeling for someone you couldn't stand 2 days later. Yeah? It's not that. It's not that, oh, she's all I can think about. A lot of times all I think about is my motorcycle. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I picked my bike up the other day, and it wasn't right, and I was not happy. I'm still not happy. I was like, how in the world can you screw this up? I was like, the apprentice must have worked on it. Got a dent in a part. I mean, it's just a chrome part. It ain't that big a deal, but it wasn't there before. I was frustrated. I was angry. But I was hurt because that's my baby. That's my bike. We've been through a lot. 98,000 miles. We've been all over the place. We've ridden fast. We've ridden fast. Somebody thought I was going to say slow, but that don't. I had a guy come up to me yesterday or the other day and looking at it, and he goes, ooh, it goes 120 miles. Does it really go that fast? I said, I can only vouch for 110. I don't know. He goes, what? I was like, that's all I know. I don't know about the 120. I don't know. Maybe, probably. But I do. But I tell you what, I wouldn't keep that bike if it meant I couldn't keep my wife. Because I set that up before she became wife, so I kind of had a safety net there. But my point is, she's more important to me because I love her. I know what love is. I love her. I like my bike. I love my bike as a physical entity, but I don't love. And he says, this is what love is. So what is it? It's that Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. That's what love is. In the motorcycle community, we like to hug each other and call each other brothers and say, I love you. But how many of them really love you? Because it says here, to love me, you're willing to lay your life down for me. Churches are the same way. Oh, he's my brother. I just love him to death. Where's John? Oh, he's going to another church now. I thought he loved me. I thought he was my brother. The Bible says this is what love is. And I'm going to show you by giving you an example of what love is. Love makes you change your plans, make you change your agenda. My plan was not to get remarried, especially not to somebody with kids. I am too. But what did God say? He said, look, you need this person. Well, I was putting up with me by myself, so I was doing good. I kind of liked the way, I kind of liked me the way, I was like, this is cool. Nobody tells me what to do but me, and half the time I don't listen to me. So, hey, this works out great. I mean, I was living Shun's life, Nobody tells me what to do but me, and I don't like what I say half the time, so I don't do it. Yeah. And God said, no, I got plans for you, and this is the only way you're going to do it. This is the only way you're going to get there. She's going to support you. She's going to help you. She's going to push you. She's going to get you there. She's going to help manage the things that you need help with. And these two girls, you're going to learn that you need them too. You're going to learn how to show them love that they're looking for through me. And it ain't going to be easy. Just like the Good Samaritan, it's going to cost you money. You're going to have to give up your oil, your wine, your donkey to carry them on. Well, that too. But he says, this is what real love is. Real love changes your agenda, guys. It changes your agenda. It changes from that all that fleshly would have, could have, should have to thank God I didn't. Because we all can remember, oh, I could have done this. I should have done this. Oh, I wish I could go back and change this. And I thought to myself one day, because I used to say that a lot, and I thought, you know what? If I could go back and change it, and I changed it, what if what I changed it to was worse than what it is right now? Because I don't know that it will be better. I just assume it'd be better, but I've already lived through it. Why in the world would I want to risk it again? But we all live that woulda, coulda, shoulda. But it's like, what if it had been worse? That's the possibility that your other option might have been the worst option, and you made the right option. You just don't know it now. You wouldn't be who you are today. He said, real love is that you're going to lay down your life for your brothers or your sisters. Turn over to Micah. That's over in the Old Testament, so you got to go back a little bit. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. He says, he has shown you, O mortal. Talk about being put in your place. O mortal, what is good and what does the Lord require you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. You know, all of that clashes with our personal agendas, does it not? Because our personal agenda is about who? Me. How often are we humble about me? When I talk about me, who is it about? Me. When I want to talk about what I'm going to do, who's it about? Me. Here it says, no. We got to walk humbly with the Lord. And we do that by showing mercy and love to others, which will change your whole agenda. I got somewhere to be. There's somebody in need. What am I going to do? I'm going to keep going. That's my agenda. Or am I going to take the opportunity to find out if this is God's agenda? Maybe this is somebody God needs me to talk to. Maybe it's somebody that's thinking about killing themselves tomorrow, and just me stopping shows them that somebody loves them. Maybe it's somebody that just needed someone to say hi. That's all they needed was someone just to say hi one time, and it would change everything. Sometimes the divine tutorials involves meeting practical needs first. If you look back over in verse 34, he says, he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine on him. So it doesn't say to me the first thing he did was call for help. The first thing he did was say, hey, you know what, dude? When you get this all taken care of, come visit us at church. We'll see what we can do to help you. But isn't that what a lot of Christians like to say? Yeah. Come on over and visit us at the church. We'll see what we can do to help. He says no. He said, what did he do? The very first thing he did, he went to him. Where did he go? He went to him. What did the guy need? He needed somebody to come to him. That's one of the problems we have. What do we want to do to meet someone's practical need? Hey, come to me and I'll help you. Come to my church and we'll try to help you. Come here. Yeah? And what did he do? Went to him. What is the church supposed to do? Go to people. See, that's the first thing he did. He met his needs. He went to him. That was the first thing he did. And then after he went to him, he assessed what his needs were. And those needs were his wounds. So the first thing he did was he bandaged his wounds. Now, I can pretty much guarantee you, don't say in here, but I'm not assuming that he walked around with a first aid kit. So where do you think these bandages came from? Off of his own clothes. Because he wasn't married to you, Lisa. That's why he wouldn't be walking around with a first aid kit. So he saw first, he needs me to come to him. Then the second thing he saw was he has wounds and I need to bandage those wounds. I need to take care of him right now. What's the Christian's favorite thing to say? Oh, honey, I'll be praying for you. No, you pray for me now. You know I have these wounds. Don't send me off. Take care of me now. Stop. Make me your priority. Make God your priority. Meet my needs now. I need prayer now. So stop now and give them to me. I need help now. He saw what he needed. He had wounds. He needed bandaging, and he needed bandaging now. So he bandaged him right away. He also gave him oil. You guys all know how cheap oil was back in those days. We've talked about that before. That was a great commodity. One of the most expensive things that we had at the time was the oil. And he poured his oil that was for him. He poured it on his wounds and his wine. He sacrificed to meet the guy's needs right then, right now. And that's what Christians really, we need to walk into. When God gives us that divine intervention, He gives us a divine detour and it's time to do something. It's not when we decide to do it, it's when? Now. Right then. Right now. And that's what He did. He did it right now. Look over in Mark chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 35 through 39. It says, "By this time it was late in the day, and His disciples came to Him. 'This is a remote place,' they said, 'and it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat.' The disciples said, 'Hey, it's getting late. Send these people away. Tell them so they can go find somewhere to eat.' Now, on the surface, it looks like they care about these people, right? Hey, look, it's getting late. You know, people are going to need some supper. You know, they're going to need something to eat. Let's just go ahead and cut service short right now, and let's just send them out and tell them to go find something to eat." They're thinking about their needs, right? That's what we're thinking, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like. You know, I'm thinking about, disciples are thinking about their practical needs, and they're hungry, and they got to have something to eat. But see, Jesus took it a step further. He kept working, and He answered, He said, "Well, then give them something to eat." He's kind of like, excuse me, if they're hungry, give them something to eat. Why are you sending them away? That's stupid. And it saddens me to think about how many churches are doing just that. People are hungry. People are starving to know the truth. People are starving to have hope. People are starving to understand who God is. And the churches are saying, send them out. Send them to a Bible study. Send them here. Send them over there. And Jesus is like, just feed them. Just feed them. And then, of course, here's what we say. And they said to him, that would take more than half a year's wages. Here's the treasurer in the group. Are we to go and spend that much on bread and give it to them to eat? These guys have been walking with this man named Jesus, have been seeing him do things, and they ask the stupidest questions in the world. They have a need. God, you can turn water into wine, you can walk on water, but you cannot feed 5,000 people. You know, we ain't perfect here at our church, I can tell you right now. We say that to each other sometimes. Well, we need to do this. How are we going to get the money? We need this. Well, we can't do it because we don't have this. And I am the smart aleck pastor. Anybody realize that yet? I am a smart aleck pastor. So when they tell me that, they're like, well, where are we going to get this? And guess where I do? I point right at the altar. Every single time. Do I not? I point at the altar. Now somebody could say, well, you're just stupid, or you're just whatever, or you don't know how to do things, or you know, whatever you want to say. But like clockwork, has God ever not provided anything we have brought to this altar? He's brought everything. Everything. Now, not on my time, not on Steve's time, not on Chris's time, not on Crystal's time. But every time this core group has brought something to this altar and said, God, we're doing this for you. We're hungry. They're hungry. We want to feed them, but we're trusting you. We're not saying, oh, well, that means all of us have to give more money to make this work. All this. No. We're trusting God. We're not being like the disciples and asking stupid questions. In reality, the Yahweh Music Jam should not have happened from a church this size. Should not have happened. We should not have been able to have the manpower to pull that off. We should not have been able to have the finances to pull that off. Matter of fact, I heard a pastor tell me, well, put it on a concert is very expensive. And I was like, really? It wasn't. Why? Because God provided. You guys see that big stack of water back there? What happens when God provides? He provides abundantly. I just needed a little bit of water to provide to the bands while they were singing. The guy says, hey, I got water. We'll give it to you. No worries. And I was like, great. That'd be wonderful. How much? He said, I'm going to give you a pallet. I don't know how much a pallet of water is. So we show up to get a pallet of water. Howard's truck is full, and it's going down, and Crystal starts counting. She goes, we got 1,900 bottles of water, don't you? And I was like, that's abundantly. I was like, oh, that's abundantly. We prayed for water, and we got 1,900 bottles of water.
Well, we ain't got to worry about if they turn the water off, I promise you.
Yeah, some of us can take a bath now. This is awesome. But he meets the practical needs if you believe in him. And then the disciples are like, hey, how are we going to do that? He asked them, he says, okay, whatever. Whatever. He says, how many loaves do you have? And then, of course, there's a slight pause there, so I'm assuming they're sitting there going, And he says, just like we do our kids, go see. Go see what we got. Go open the pantry, see what's in there, what we got. And then Jesus directed them, and half the people sat down in the group, told them to go have the people sit down in the group in the green grass. In verse 42, he said, they all ate and were what? Satisfied or full. And the disciples picked up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of the men who had eaten were 5,000. Or 5,000. He took care of their practical needs so that he could continue to meet their spiritual needs. Do you see that? Do you see that? He took care of their practical needs so that they could get that out of the way so he can continue to meet their spiritual needs. And that's what he's asking us to do. That's some of the detours that he puts on us. I love that story because it's just so humanistic. It's so real. It's so truthful. Because here's these disciples, the closest to God that you could get, the closest to Christ of any of the people, and they still were thinking like men. And Jesus is like, no, here's how I want you to think. As long as you bring them to me, I will take care of them, but I will take care of them abundantly. You will have water left over. And they did. And we do. Look over in James chapter 2, verse 15. And this is my my normal plug for Bible study. So you can blame Chris if you don't like hearing about it. Because he's the one doing the Bible study with us. But James chapter 2, verse 15 and 16. It says, suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you say to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In other words, if someone comes to you and says, I need $20 to get something to eat, and you say, I'll pray for you, what's wrong? They walk out of there what? Still hungry and disappointed in believing that you're following what Christ did. No? I mean, we like to study the James because James is just like us. He's pretty real. He's pretty straightforward. He pretty much hits you between the eyes. And if you turn around because you didn't like it, he'll smack you on the back of the head just to make sure you turn around and look at him when you're done. Isn't that right? He's going to make sure you understand. He keeps it real. He says straight out, says, suppose a brother and sister is without clothes or daily food. Hey, that's real life stuff right there. That's real life stuff. That's out there. That's every day. So suppose that happens. Would you say to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed? Hey, I'm going to pray for you. God's going to take care of you. He'll give you a coat and he'll give you a food. But don't ask me. I've got a closet full of coats. But I ain't going to give you one of them. If you need it, I'm going to give it to you. That's just the way it is. You need a helmet, come see me. I probably got one. Wife's like, what do you keep buying helmets? Somebody's going to need a helmet. And she won't let me ride without one. So I can't give you mine. Somebody's going to need something. Sean's got a building full of parts. Why? And his exact words is, somebody is going to need it. Somebody is going to need it, and I'm going to have it. I was like, Sean, you don't even have that kind of bike. Somebody is going to need it, and I'm going to have it to give to them. Is that not the right attitude to have? I don't need it, so why don't I just throw it in the trash? I don't need it, but somebody might need it, and I'll have it to give it Give it. He didn't say, I'll have it so I can sell it to somebody. I'll have it so I can give it to them if they need it. And that's what James says. Don't just tell somebody you're going to pray for them. Don't just tell them to go in peace and I hope you get something to eat. I'll pray God to send you something. Give it to them. Take care of them. Meet their practical needs. Meet it. The other thing about divine detours is it takes the hardest thing that we have. A personal involvement. You have to be personal. Look back on verse 34 through 35. He went to him and bandaged his wound, pouring oil and wine, then put the man on his own donkey, brought him to the inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for the extra expenses you have. So I want you to circle he. It says he went. I want you to circle his donkey. And then he, where it says the next day he took. And he says, for I return and I will reimburse. Do you notice what the personal involvement is that was there? How many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4 times he was taking ownership. Personal involvement in this guy. It says he went. He didn't send him to the hospital. He didn't send him to the inn. It says he went to him. Then he put him on what? His own donkey. His. Whose donkey? His donkey. Giving up his stuff. And then and then the next day he what? He took. See, it's him. And then I. He had a personal involvement in what this guy's doing. Now, underline, own donkey, cared for, will pay back, and come again. You see what's going on here? This guy's got fully invested in making sure this guy gets taken care of. He could have very simply done the good Christian thing, slowed down, looked over, and called 911. Yeah? That's the good Christian thing to do. Slow down, look over, see there's a car over the embankment, call 911, let them know, and keep going. And then feel good about yourself. Yep, I tried to help. I called 911. No, this guy went a step further. He stopped. He went to him. He took care of him with his own stuff. He brought him up. Then he took him somewhere to get treated. And then he says, hey, I'm going to make sure this gets taken care of. I'm going to pay for it. And if you need more, I'll give you more. If you need more, when I come back, now he could have just stuck him in there and said, hey, his name's John Doe. I don't know. He's on the side of the road somewhere. Here he is, and I'm out of here. And just left. This guy says, hey, when I come back, I'll take care of it. Meaning I'm going to come make sure he's okay. I'm going to make sure he got taken care of. I'm going to make sure to follow up with this guy. He took it a step further. He didn't finish. It took his personal involvement to get this guy well. God put this in there so that he would see that this is what was important, is that you don't just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to pray for you, but you continue to follow up with them. You continue to make sure they're okay. You make sure they have what they need. You love on them. Let them know, hey, I'll be back. I tell people all the time, hey, we're going to be following up with you. And I tell people, the bad thing about our church is if you don't come to church, we're going to call you. We're going to call you and say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Why are you not here? If you say, hey, you just suck and I don't want to be there no more, okay, we won't call you no more. Well, that's if they say Howard suck. I mean if they say I suck. If you say I found another church, we're like, all right, man, we're very happy for you. We're going to be praying that it's successful for you. But, we're not going to keep calling you because we're not here to steal people. We're just here to love on them, make sure they know somebody cares. We're going to follow up. You make sure they know that. Make sure they know they're okay. Or Sean don't show up to church, what happens? Sean gets a text from me, where you at? You okay? Yeah, I'm all right. All right. Make sure you're okay. That's it. I don't need to bribe me. Hey, the Bible says, Sean, that you should have been in church every minute and you weren't here, and by golly, when you show up, I'm going to have you at the altar and we're going to do something about it. No. Right? No. That's between him and God. I just want to make sure he's okay. I just want to make sure he's fine. Why he's not here is not my business. All I care about is, hey, are you okay? You're not in the hospital. You're not sick. You didn't have a wreck. There's something I don't know about. Yeah, I'm good. Amen. I'm fine with that. See you next Sunday. Yep, I'll be there. Okay. That's what this guy was. He wasn't following up to get his money back. He wasn't following up to get patted on the back of glory. He said, look, I just want to make sure he's okay. I just want to make sure he's fine. I want to know that I cared. That's all I want to know. I want him to know that he's cared for, that he's loved. Look over in 1 Thessalonians 2, chapter 2, verse 8. It says, so we cared for you because we loved you so much. We were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. You don't get any more personal involvement than sharing your life as well. It says, I not only am delighted to share the gospel with you. See, that's with churches. Our job is to share the gospel. But when does it get real? It gets real when we go beyond just sharing the gospel, when we share our lives with each other. We become a family with each other. That's when church becomes real. That's when you really see who God is when you go beyond just talking about God, when you go beyond just reading the scriptures, when you go beyond just telling people what God has done for you, and to go into showing people what's in the scripture is real. That God's love is real. Jesus' love is real. How do they see that? They see that through you first. And they're like, oh, I want that. I want someone to care about me that way. I want someone to call me when I don't feel right. And God has told them, hey, you better call this person to see if they're okay. Or they're struggling with something. They shared that with you. And what do we like to say? Hey, I'll pray with you, Steve. I'll pray for you every single day. But it makes a difference when every single day you call or text Steve and say, hey, did you kill anybody today? No. It makes a difference, don't it? It changes everything. It changes everything when you know somebody's thinking about you, praying for you. Not just coming back next Sunday and say, hey, how'd your week go? I was praying for you all week. Well, thanks for checking on me in the middle of the week. It probably would have been nice on Wednesday because I'm in jail today. That's why I'm not in church. Because nobody called and said, hey, I'm thinking about you. Are you okay? Right before you started to go over there and smack your boss upside the head and shoot your neighbor. For no other reason than the fact that you didn't just call and say, hey, buddy, you okay? I know you've been struggling with anger this week. I know you've been struggling with this. I know you've been struggling with that. We talked about it. I just want to make sure you're okay. The guy's like, look, I know you got wounds. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'll come back. I'll check on you. You got to have personal involvement. Look at Luke chapter 10, verse 36 through 37. It says, which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert of the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him something very important. He said, go. Did you see that? Go and do likewise. He said, go and do likewise. Guys, all around us there are people that are struggling. All around us there are people that are hurt. All around there are people that are just looking for one person to show them who Christ is. One person. That one person is probably you. He says to go. He didn't say, hey, you know what? Stay here, hang out. I'll bring somebody to you that you can help. Hey, pastor, start a church, stand at the pulpit, and I'll send people to you that you can take care of. See, we used to say, and I probably have said it myself, that a church is a hospital. Anybody heard that before? You know that's bullcrap, right? I've worked in a hospital. You know what a hospital is? It's a place where the sick and wounded come to get treated. Jesus never told us to be a place where the sick and wounded can come to get sick. He told us to be a place where we can train people to go out like paramedics and EMS and get the people that are wounded and sick. See, the problem with churches is we have a whole lot of hospital and not a whole lot of EMS stations. We do not have a whole lot of Christian EMS systems that are going out and finding the people that are broken, that are sick, that are hurting, and bringing them to the hospital. And the problem is, every church is supposed to be equipping people to do just that. Am I lying to you? Isn't that what the Bible says? So we build all these great programs within a church, and I'm not saying they're wrong necessarily, if those programs are designed to equip people to learn how to become paramedics and EMTs, to go out and find them, bandage their wounds, and then bring them to the hospital for continuous healing. Do you see that in the Good Samaritan? He went there. He found the problem. He didn't say, I'll get you to the hospital to get fixed. He says, no, let me stop the bleeding. Let me take care of you. Let me love on you right here, right now, in the ditch where you are. And then I will pick you up, and I'll put you on my donkey or my car or whatever I have to, and I'll bring you to the hospital so you can continue to get well. You can continue to get treatment for what's bothering you. You continue to grow, and you continue to become more like Christ. You continue to be prepared so that when you're healthy, when you're ready, now you can be me, and you can go out here, and you can start looking and getting those that are broken, that need bandages, and you can fix them and then bring them to the end. When the church quits focusing on being the end and starts focusing on being the paramedics and just having the end as a place to continue to build people to get more and more paramedics so we can go more and more places, then you'll see the revival in our town that everybody's hoping and praying will happen. But I'm telling you, as James says, faith without works is what? Dead. Where's Christ in this town? Everybody says he's dead. Why? We're building mega churches, but we don't have a whole lot of first aid stations. We're building mega churches, but we're not going out and we're actually taking care of people. We're doing community service, but we're not doing missional service. We show up once a week to feed the homeless. Great, they got one meal. But we're not loving on them. We're giving them our Sunday best sermon right up there saying, hey, if you ain't getting a bite to eat till you shut up and listen to me. But we're not loving on them. We're not taking care of their wounds. We're not bandaging them. We're just throwing words at them so they can get their meal and walk away. That's community service. Missional service means my goal is to do just like the Good Samaritan, is to come where you are, love on you, wrap on your wounds, do what I can do to help get you back on your feet. And if you want to come to my hospital, come to my hospital. But if not, let me help you find an inn to go to. You notice he didn't say he took him to his home. He took him to the inn. Whatever is more convenient for them is where we take them. It's not about growing a church. It's about growing the kingdom. We start remembering that, and people are going to want to be somewhere where your focus isn't on them for their butts in the seat. Your focus isn't on them and their wallet. Your focus is on them and their heart. Then people are going to want to be there. You're here for that reason. I'm here for that reason. Because the only thing you cared about is that I love on you and you love on me. That's why we're here. It's not the church of wealth. This is not the church of great size. This is not the church of 1 billion programs for everybody. We don't have a gym. We don't have a basketball court. We don't have a church softball team. But we don't need any of that stuff. What we need is to remember what God told us to do. What Jesus told us to do. And He said, go and do the same. To go. When we figure that out, then things will change in this town. We figure that out, things will change in your neighborhood. You figure those things out, things will change in your home. Oh, wait a minute, you're getting personal, Pastor. Well, I'm sorry. We're a family. Families is personal. How many times are you taking care of the bandages of the people in your home? Oh, just shut up. You're annoying. Well, it hurts my feelings. I don't care. You guys don't ever say that? Yes, you do. They were good. They were meant to hurt your feelings. And you're the pastor? No, I'm your father. Bandage the wounds everywhere, wherever they are. John 13, verse 15 and verse 17, we'll close to this. It says, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Guys, now that we know these things, we know to put God first. Now that we know that divine detours are going to happen and what our responsibility is when those detours will happen. He says, if we do these things, now that we know them, we're going to be blessed. The reason why I asked is how many people tried what we talked about last week. That's the whole purpose of these messages. It's not for you guys to come and get your Jesus box checked on Sunday. It's not so I can sit here and ramble off and talk to you about things. It's so you can have some things to take home and put in your toolbox. And when things happen, you open up your toolbox and you got all these tools to fix things with. Because I tell you, there's nothing more annoying for me when I got something I got to fix at home and I open up my toolbox and the thing ain't there. And I have to go buy one. So when I ask you, hey, did anybody try this week? It's because I want to know, hey, I know you went through these issues. Did you put God first, yes or no? And if it's like, then I'm like, why did I give you the tools? Why do I even bother? Today's the same thing. If you walk out of here and you don't take a single thing we said and put it into work, if you don't do what God told you to do, which was scripturally based today, it was the things that He had for you to listen to and share with you. If you don't take it out of here, then don't even bother showing up. Because there's no point. You're not going to get to heaven sitting in the seat at Yahweh and Sons Bible Church. I'm sorry. You ain't. You're not going to get to heaven by putting money into the gas tank at Yahweh and Sons Bible Church. I'm sorry. You're not. You're not going to have Him look at you and say, hey, well done. Well done. By coming here every Sunday. If you don't take anything that He tells you while you're here and you put it into practice when you walk out of here. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and His time. Because you're playing a game. You're playing a game. Don't be phony. Don't be phony. You know, it's no different. You can go to Harley and buy all the gear you want. Matching boots, nice chaps, bunch of shirts, cut jacket, gloves, helmet. But if you don't buy a motorcycle and you don't get on it and ride it, you ain't a biker. You're just an idiot that spent a whole lot of money on a bunch of stuff you didn't need. Guys, you can buy a Bible. You can get a t-shirt that says, I love Jesus. You can walk into church and sit here every day just like you can walk in a Harley shop. But you are not a Christian until you actually put your feet over on the ground and you start walking in the way God wants you to walk. You're just a phony. You're just a fraud. Most of us in here ride, and you know how we feel about those phony weekend riders. We need to start feeling that same way about those phony weekend Christians. We need to feel the same way. So Drew's going to dim the lights for us. Steve's going to play something. This is your time to be able to make a decision. We're going to go ahead and stand because you know we got to break that suction between the butt and the seat. This is your time to think about, number one, am I just showing up to show up? Am I actually listening to what God has for me, and am I putting it into practice? Number two is, I don't know what in the world you're talking about, Pastor. I don't know who this God person is. I don't know who Jesus is. I mean, I heard about him being talked about, but I've never actually met him. I've read about him. I've heard about him. I've heard people talk about him, but I've never actually met this guy. But he sounds like he's pretty cool. He sounds like he loves me. It sounds like he wants to take care of me. It sounds like he's the only one in the whole wide world that's not wanting to just push me out the door after he's done using me. He wants me to stay. If I'm hungry, the Bible says that he feeds me. And when I'm thirsty, it says he becomes the water for me. And when I'm lonely, he talks to me. When I'm depressed, he makes me smile. And when I'm all alone and nobody seems to care, he always whispers in my ear, I love you. And you're precious to me. You may be sitting there going, I want to know what that's like. I don't understand. Today's the day where we can introduce you to him. Today's the day where you can, for the first time in your life, feel what peace is really about. The way we do things is very simple, and you guys have heard me say before, the altar is your altar. It's not mine. You're not coming up here to glorify me. You're not coming up here to glorify Howard. You're coming up here to glorify God and talk to him. So the altar is yours. If you have trouble getting down, just give me a look, and I'll give you a chair. You can sit right here at the altar. But it's your time to come talk to him. If you need someone to pray with you, we'll pray with you, but we're not going to bother you unless you want us. So Steve's going to play, and at this time, I want you to listen to what God has to say. And if he's talking to you, come talk to him. Don't sit back.
On this thirsty desert ground, in a dry and barren land, I bow down. I need you now. You call and I will come to the river. I will run. I bow down. You're the start and you're the end. You complete what you begin. I bow down. I need you now. You will call, I will come. To a river I will run. I bow down. I need you now. Oh, living water. Oh, God, my Savior. If I ever needed you, I need you now. Oh, living water. Oh, God, my healer. If I ever needed you, I need you now. Just like the desert needs a blessing from the rain, just like the water waiting on the sun again. I need you now, just like a river as it reaches for the sea, just like a song it needs a sound of melody. I need you now. Just like a desert needs a blessing from the rain, just like the winter waiting for the sun again. I need you now, just like a river as it reaches for the sea, just like a song that needs a sound of melody. I need you now, just like the desert needs a blessing from the rain, just like the winter waiting for the sun again. I need you now, just like the river as it reaches for the sea, just like the song that needs the sound of melody. I need you now. I need you now. If I ever needed you, I need you now. Oh, living water. Oh, God, my Savior. If I ever needed you, I need you now. Oh, living water. Oh, God, my healer. And if I ever needed you, I need you now.
Steph, can you grab the light?
All right. Am I on? Okay. Announcements for this week. Of course, we have Bible study on Tuesday night. Meet at 6:30. We start at 7. We're in James still. Our next movie night is March 16th at 7. We're watching The Star, I think. Okay. And our next potluck is March 25th. So these are some things a little bit away. We also have a calendar in the back hall back there. If you guys haven't seen it, please feel free to write on it. We try not to miss birthdays, but make sure your family's birthdays are on there, and we will at some point embarrass you that week. We will acknowledge you and embarrass you. But yeah, anything that you feel that we've forgotten, Lisa and I try to keep it up. She's been very good to help me with that, but make sure you're throwing things on there. Did I miss anything on events? Oh yes, April 1st, right? April 1st is Easter. We will be having a sunrise service at the Riverfront Park in West Columbia like we did last year. We have a baptism as well. So, and we take anybody who wants to be baptized, whether it's in our church or not. So please let folks know. We've been sort of advertising it a little bit on Facebook, and we've actually had some outside interest. So come one, come all. And that will be our only service that day. And it's at 6-ish. Whatever time the sun comes up around that time, we'll let you know.
As we get closer, we'll be watching the time of when, but it literally will be at a sunrise service. So that's why right now I can't give you a time because I don't know what time the sun's supposed to rise, guesstimated on that a month from now. But, you know, between 6:30, 7, somewhere around there, you know, we'll have
a
it.
definitive time.
They have a smaller amphitheater there, so that's what we'll be using. And the worship band will be there. So it'll be a regular service in the sense that we'll have everybody there like we do here. The only difference is it's going to be a sunrise. It's open to the public because we're at the amphitheater there. Last year, I don't know how many people we had. Chris wasn't there, so he couldn't do his clicker. But we did have quite a few people there last year that just showed up. You know, we did, I think, 5 or 6 baptisms, and one of them all of them were really, really special, but one of them was this lady, you know, she's behind stage. I didn't see her, and some of the other people saw her. She was hiding in the bushes. You know, that song, you know, hide it under a bushel, no. She was hiding in the bushes, and she just finally had enough, and she came out from underneath the bushes and asked to be baptized from what she had heard during the service and stuff. So that was really kind of interesting for us and special because we thought we were done. The planned baptisms were done. And here, fully clothed. She didn't change. She didn't anything. She had a coat on, a hat, everything. She just walked right in the water with everything. Says, I got to do it now. And so that's kind of the way we do it. You know, people show up. We let them know we're moving down to the river for baptism. If you want to be baptized, come on down. And
the water's really warm.
The water is really. You didn't get in the water.
April 1st is crazy warm.
Yeah. No, he did.
Just going by what you said, it's really warm, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to help you out. He was advertising.
It gets warmer when the numbing sets in. So after the first baptism, you're like, hey, this ain't too bad. But yeah, it's truly a blessing and something that if you haven't got to experience a sunrise service, but especially not down on the river, definitely want to be there. Invite your friends, family to come down and partake in it. It's really something that you'll never forget.
All right, and then prayer request. Linda last week asked us to pray for a little boy named Noah that she knows. We want to continue to pray for him. We're happy to hear that Adrian will be coming home tomorrow, so very excited about that. We've been praying for her hard this week. Any update on your son-in-law, Tony?
Yeah, he's getting worse again. He came home Friday. He came home. They had his blood sugar supposedly under control, and this morning he's gone back up near 1,000.
Wow.
So they're probably taking him back to the hospital.
Wow. Okay. We'll continue to pray for him. And then we want to pray for Linda. She fell yesterday at the amphitheater, and I understand she's a little sore this morning, so we want to continue to pray for her. Any prayer requests that?
I wanted to make a church update. For a couple of months, from last summer till about around Christmas time, we had Alden, one of my lifelong friends, her son Alden, had brain tumors and has brain cancer, and he's in the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, and he's been in a coma since August of last year. And he has emerged from his coma as of a week and a half ago and is actually progressing with verbal, physical, and stimulatory responses to everything, so that he is physically and mentally, brain-wise functioning, emerged from his comatose state and actually now on the road to recovery from having brain tumors. So just wanted to say thank you for prayers and praise Jesus and all of that, because they had actually, doctors had called her in and said, we need to pray and consider options, you know, for taking him off of life support. And they said, no, God's not done. And he wasn't. So just praise Jesus. So.
Amen.
Anybody else? I have a prayer request. Over the time, Darren is going through some stuff right now, and he really needs prayer.
Okay.
Darren?
We'll absolutely
Darren,
pray for him.
yeah.
We'll pray for him. Anybody else?
And I also would like to thank Gator, Miss Judy, Miss Linda, Amanda, and Becky. I'm just messing around. Becky for yesterday for sitting out there at the prayer tent and the hospitality tent, and just sitting out there. I mean, because it was, you know, down there in those shadows. That wind was whipping through there, and it was a little chilly. I went down there a couple times and said, I'm staying up there with the sun shining. But no, and Amanda, thank you for the gumbo. It was excellent. It was excellent. Good and spicy. The only thing, next time, we got to have crawdads.
Hey, I'm working on that. I am working on that.
I know. I already heard. I said, I'll be there. Okay. I know you called it crawdad pot.
No, I've got somebody here. The husband is catching right now. Okay. Yeah, I need to go like catch whip. I need to catch whip.
All right, so we took prayer requests. Anybody got a praise report for this week?
I don't have a praise report, but I do have an announcement. This week was Jameson's birthday, or
Oh, sorry we missed it.
I didn't know to tell y'all. I didn't think about it. He did turn 17.
Oh, wow. You're an adult now. Uh-oh.
Learn how to let go, because this is just weird.
You'll be all right. We'll help you. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Yes. On the side of the pulpit there, there are prayer cards. Emily went around talking to folks at the music jam and got some prayer requests. And I'd kind of like people who would be willing to take one of those and just take them and pray for them throughout the course of the week. Pray for the person that. Oh, you have some more to add to it. Okay, thank you. Okay, good. So there are a lot of them here. It's a big commitment. But I would like for us as a church, just if everybody will grab one, just commit to praying for that person all week. We never know. I mean, this may be somebody that doesn't go to church, that doesn't know Christ. This may be somebody that's hurting, and obviously the requests that they have written there as well. But I would like for us to commit to doing that. If you would grab one.
Just to kind of reiterate a little bit, as I was putting these up here, I was looking. You know, these aren't silly prayer requests. You know, pray for me, I get a new car or something like that. I mean, here's one that says, pray for my son, he's an alcoholic. Pray for my sister, she's an alcoholic and in a bad relationship. You know, my brother's in jail, and then there's just all kinds of like real ones. They're not just, you know, pray for me, I get a new car. They're all real prayer requests, you know, real needs that people have out there. And this is our opportunity to do exactly what we just talked about, is to go out and meet these needs. I mean, we don't know who these people are, but God does. And all he's asking is for us to lift them up and bandage their wounds. So
Let's not forget the little pass out them little bands yesterday. They were wild.
Chris, you want to go ahead and close us in prayer?
God, we just thank you so much for the privilege to serve you, Lord, that even though we're just a small group of believers, that you allowed us the honor of putting together such a big event undertaking, Lord, and we just thank you for the blessings that we received in that. Thank you for moving the hearts of the people here to be a part of that, and just thank you for the way that you came in such a big way and what you did, Lord. I only know a small fraction of the things that you did and the work that you did there, and We just thank you that you allowed us to be a part of it. Lord, as we leave here, I just pray that you'll help us take the message to heart, that we'll put feet to our faith, Lord, that we'll go and do the work that you've called us to do. Lord, that we'll have our eyes open to see where you're working around us. And, Lord, just move us and just compel our hearts to be a part of that and to do what you're asking us to do. Lord, just pray for those who weren't able to make it, that you would keep them safe and bring them back to us. And, Lord, as we leave here, just help us to remember that we're leaving here to go out in the mission field and show your. In Jesus' name, amen.